In this video, what I'm going to do is show you how to make these caps. They are very popular now. I did have some viewers contact me and send me some photos and ask me if I could do a video on how to make these caps. I was able to find the pattern. The pattern is a Vogue pattern, and the number on the pattern is V as in Victor 8869. I'm quite sure you can find this online, and you can even may be able to find it in Joann's fabric store. This pattern comes with 3 different styles. It have this cap, it have 2 hats, and I went ahead and just made an example first of the cap, and I made an example of the hat just so you can kind of see from the beginning what it looks like. This is the cap, this is the hat, and you can make these out of vinyl, you can make them out of leather, you can make them out of fabric, whatever you choose to use. You can make caps out of the material that you choose. Now, these caps are very simple to make. I'm going to show you the process, but before I do that, I want to show you, this is another style which is close to the same, it's close to the same style. They both have this side panel here, you have the crown, and you have the bib. This bib here stays together. This bib here, it opens up like this. Now, I'm going to show you how to make this, but I think I'm going to also show you how to put a snap in here. So if you want to snap that and keep it closed, you can do that. And we have made these caps. Now what we did, we actually took a cap and took it apart and made a pattern from it. So I'm not even sure how to find that pattern or where it comes from, but we just took a cap apart and made the pattern. Now we made it, this is out of leather. This is one that we made out of lawn furniture fabric. This is the type of water resistant fabric that they will put on lawn furniture. And this is one that we did out of fabric. So it looks good no matter what you use to make the cap out of. Now, one of the things that I want to show you is choosing your leather. When you choose your leather, what you don't want to do is that you don't want to get any leather that have too much body to it. See how when I turn this and it's have resistance? That's not what you want, because when you do this part here, let me put this cap back on. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. When you do this part right here where you're making this curve, if it's too stiff, if the leather's too stiff and have too much resistance, you have a lot of problems in here. With fabric, it's okay because you can clip around the corners and it'll just curve with no problem. But with leather, you can clip it, but it's gonna still look, it's not gonna look good here because it's too much resistance. So what I try to work with, leather that do not have that resistance to it. This is just soft and no resistance. So when I turn this corner, I shouldn't have any problem with it. And I think what I'm going to do, well, let me pull the pattern out and show you what the pattern looked like before we even get started. Okay, now what I want to do is show you the pattern and how it relates to this cap. So what we'll do now, when you get your pattern, this pattern I think it have 4 different sizes. It have small, medium, large, and extra large. This is a medium. And so what we did was that we took the pattern and we put it on a copy machine, and we made copies. So in that way, when we cut, for example, this is a extra large here. This is a medium, and you can see the difference in the sizes. So what we did was that we cut a medium pattern out and copied it, and we cut the extra large pattern out and copied it. And you can make a copy for all 4 sizes. That's the best thing to do, because if you take the pattern, the original pattern, and you cut it out, and you cut it out for a small, you won't be able to get your other sizes out of it, because you've already cut off the medium, the extra large, large, and medium, because you decide to just use a small. So what we did, we made copies so we can get all 4 sizes out of that one pattern. So what we did, this is the medium, and this is the cap that we made from it. Now this part is the crown. This is the part that goes like this, and you see these 3 lost my train of thought right there. Pleats. I'm sorry. You see these 3. Okay, let me do this again. Okay, what I want to do is show you the pattern, and so you can have an idea how it's put together before we even start, so your mind will already kind of understand what we're going to do. We have the cap. Now the pattern comes in 4 different sizes. It comes in a extra large, large, medium, and small. So what you can do is that you can make copies from the original pattern, so you're able to get all 4 sizes out of the original pattern. Because if you take the original pattern and you just cut out a small, you will not be able to get a medium, large, and extra large pattern, because you've already cut that part off. So what we did is that this is an extra large and this is a small. Now you can see the difference. That's your medium and your extra large. Now this is the crown, which is this part of the cap here. So if I lay this on top, you can see how this fits the crown. And if you look in the back here, which are these 3 pleats, that is these pleats right here. That's what this is. So that's your crown. Now for this front part and the side right here, that's this part right here. So this will go around the cap like this, which when you're looking at this right here, which will fit right here, that's this part of the cap. Now you have your bib. This is your bib. That's your bib there. And you're going to cut out 2 pieces for your bib, because you have the back side and the front side of the bib. But inside the bib, we have this it's a hard plastic, and I'll show you a piece of that, but it's a hard plastic, and we will cut that hard plastic out in the shape of this pattern here, which will go inside your bib. You have your lining, which will be cut out and stitched together exactly like your cap. You use the same pattern. I have not put the elastic in here, which is like this. I have not put the elastic in yet, but you will see how that goes in. So they're very simple to make, and what I will do is get started now that we know what type of leather or material that we want to use, and we have an idea of how it's put together. Now we're going to trace out the pattern onto the leather, cut it out, and put it together, and I'll show you how simple this is. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and cut out the leather from the pattern, and I really like the way they did this one, to where they have different color of fabric to put this cap together. So I think I'm going to use 2 different color leathers. I think for the crown, I think I will use this leather here, which is a distressed leather, and I think for this part around here, I will use this darker brown. And I think for the bib, I will use one side out of this distress and one side out of the dark brown. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So I'm going to trace out my crown. Like I say, this is the medium. So I'll go ahead and trace this one out. Now one thing I want to do is where we have the center of the pattern, I'm going to put a mark here, and I'm going to put a mark right here on the side, and I'll show you why later. So now that I have these 3 marks, because I'm going to cut this line here to cut out the pattern, then I'm going to bring my mark into the crown. So when I cut this out, well, then I still have my mark to go by. Let me cut this one. Let me trace this out. Now I think, now what I'm going to do is, for this part here, I'm going to trace it out. To make sure if I can see that or not. Now this is the bib, which is this part here. So I think I'm going to do one out of the dark brown and one out of the distress hide. Now what I have to do is, when I do the second one, I have to flip my pattern and turn it over so they will line up when I start to put them together. So on the dark brown, I had the pattern turned up this way, but for this leather I'm going to turn it over. So when I put those two together, they will match up. Okay, now I'm going to cut them out. Which is the crown, which is this part here. That is the crown. And then we have this front part, which is going to go around. It's going to go around here. And then we have the two pieces for the bib. The next thing we're going to do is that we're going to glue them together. Now the one thing that I forgot to do was, I was telling you about these marks here that I made. Actually, when I traced this one out, what I should have done was I should have put my mark here, which is the center. So what I'll do, I will put my mark here, And also this mark right here on the side, this mark will line up. No, I'm sorry. This mark here will line up with this mark here. So I need to put a mark here and a mark here. So the next thing we'll do, we'll glue these together. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and glue the pieces together. And what I will start with, I will glue these pleats in the back first. And then after gluing those and sewing those, then we will do this front part. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these. And I'm using the contact cement glue. And I'm not putting much. It's not real wide. It's only to hold the pleats together until we sew it. Now what I'll do, I'll just put these pleats together, and I want to make sure that they're lined up evenly. So I want to make sure that these corners here are lined up even. You know, I should have put some clamps on this. I'll do this. I'm going to let this dry for a minute and then sew it. I think I better go ahead and put these clamps on it just to hold them in place, because I did not put a lot of glue on these pleats. I just don't want to have to re-glue it again. See how it's beginning to take shape? It's going to be the back of the crown. So we're going to go ahead and sew this, and so in that way we can go ahead and put the front part on. Okay, what I'm doing is that I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam. I'm starting from the bottom. I do my back stitch. So I'm going to just sew to the very top of the back of the cap. Do my back stitch. So see what I did? I just sewed from the bottom and all the way to the top. and my seam is 1/4 of an inch wide. Okay, now that we have the pleat in the back sewn together, the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to attach this front part right here, which goes around to the side, and we're going to go ahead and put the bib together. So what we will do is I'm going to use contact cement glue, and I'm going to glue all the way around the crown, and I'm going to also glue all the way around this piece here. Now what you want to make sure that you do is that you want to make sure that when you glue this, you glue this top side of it. Not, if you turn it this way, this is the bottom and this is the top. Make sure you glue the top. And you're going to glue from here all the way around to here. So what we'll do, we'll glue the crown first. Like I said, this is contact cement glue. I'm not using a lot. I'm only putting on enough to hold it until I can sew it. And you don't want your glue line to be too wide, because if it is, it's going to show once you turn it inside out. Like I say, remember to to glue the top side, the top portion of together, and I have my mark here that I did, and I also did a mark right here. So I'm just going to line those two up together. So I want to make sure that I line the two pieces up evenly. Now what I would do, I would take this part right here and I will go ahead and line it up with the back side of the crown, and then I would just work my way back around, and right here, this part right here, this is this part on the cap. So we're going to have to ease that around, because this side, the crown is going to look like it's larger than the side piece. So, and remember that the leather will bend and it will stretch. So I'll just take the crown see how that just ease in like that. Now we'll do the other side. Take this part, line it up, see how it's like it's too long here? What I'll do, and this is why you don't want your leather to be too thick, well, too stiff, because this is the area that you can start to have problems if your leather is too stiff. That's what that's going to look like. So what we're going to do now, we're going to sew all the way around to this other side. Before we go in and sew the crown and the side together, what we'll do is go ahead and glue the bib together. So what I'll do, I'll just glue from here around to here on both pieces, and we'll sew the bib and the crown at the same time. And remember, I am not putting a wide strip of glue on it. It's very narrow. So in that way, when I turn it back out, you will not see that glue. Okay, now what I'll do is put these two together. Okay, now what we will do, we'll sew the bib and the crown. Okay, what we'll do, we'll go ahead and sew the bib and the crown, and I'm sewing at 1/4 inch. And like I say, I'll start sewing from here, and I'll just sew around to here and stop. I'm going to do me a couple of stitches, then a couple of back stitches, and then I'll just sew all the way around. Then I'll do my back stitches. I'll do at least 2 back stitches. Now I will sew the crown. Now when I sew this part right here, I'm going to pull this back apart just to make sure that these 2 pieces are even. So this is where you can have the problem, is right in here. Sewing this at 1/4 inch also. I want to make sure when I'm sewing around this part here that everything is flat, because it's so easy to sew that part there and be sewing on the back side and it's kind of folded. And that's not what you want. Again, when I get around in this corner, I need to make sure that everything is flat. And that's the front and the back. Because if not, like I say, that you will see the difference. Oh, my glue coming loose. So, see if I can. I should have put some clamps on this. My back stitches. Okay, now what I'll do is turn this out like this. And this is what I mean by you want to make sure you don't put too much glue, because if you do, it'll show. We have a little showing here, but with this leather we're able to wipe it off. Some glue you're not able to wipe it off, so that's why y'all always want to have good practice of putting a small amount of glue as far as the glue line. This is the bib. Well, this is the crown, and this is going to be the bib. We still have one more thing to do to the bib before we attach it to the cap. And I think what we'll do, we'll make it to where it's like this. So this is the bib. Okay, now we'll do the second part for the bib, which we will put a piece of plastic inside of here and then close it out. Okay, now that we have the bib sewn together and we have the crown sewn together, we still need to do a couple more things to kind of finish this out to where, see how this is just kind of puffy here? What we want to do is make it to where it lays down much better than that. And also in the back, you don't have to do this, but I like doing it just to kind of give it a look. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to turn the crown inside out, and I'm just going to put a little glue Let me kind of decide on what I'm going to do here. First of all, I need to burn these tips here, because if not, they can work their way loose. One thing I do believe in, and that is quality. And you have to be your quality control chief. This will just allow the thread to lock itself in. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn, I'm going to turn these here up, outward. Well, let me see what I did here. Yeah. I'm going to turn these outward and turn these in, and this one, I guess, to the left, right, it doesn't matter. Just putting glue here. Then I'll put a little glue here. Just take this and fold this over. That will keep that laying down. Like I say, this is not something that you have to do. I do it because for me, it just gives my caps a better look. And like around here, I'm going to glue this. I would normally top stitch this, but because the way this is made here, which is here, I guess I could still top stitch it, but I'm just going to glue it. Because I think if I was top stitching this would give me some problems. And instead of me creating a problem for myself, I would just use the glue to hold it down. Because the thing about the glue, if you glue it and you don't like the way it looks, you can pull it back apart. But if you top stitch it and you don't like the way it looks, you might as well just make another one. Okay, so what I'll do, I just take this, turn this back, like I say, this will just help this part of the cap, of the crown, to give it some definition. I mean, I could have put the glue at the top, but I think just putting it at the bottom, for me, it just works better for me. And if I wanted to put some at the top, I can go back and do that. See how it makes it just kind of lay down more in here? So the next thing I'm going to do, I need to cut a piece, which will be a piece like this, and we use this hard plastic. Let me get this plastic and show you what I'm going to put inside. Okay, what we're going to do now, see inside the bib, we have this plastic that is flexible. It won't break. Some people may put cardboard or something like that inside, but the cardboard will break down. And we use this plastic, and we get this, I'll put it at the end of the video where we buy it. But sometimes you can find it at like a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's. But it's a hard plastic that bends. See how it bends, but it doesn't break. It doesn't break down. And this is what we use in the caps. So what we do, we take the pattern and I just trace it out. Then I cut it out. Now, even though this is the shape of the pattern, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut off a portion of this. I want to cut off a portion of this, and the reason why is because this goes off in here like this. But because this here sticks up so far, when I get ready to sew this, it's not going to give me much room in here to sew. So what I'll do, I will cut off a portion of that just to allow me to be able to sew. But one other thing I'm going to do before I put this in, I'm going to glue this so it'll lay down for me and have a better shape. See here. I never tried it this way by gluing it and setting this in here, but I'm going to see how this works. You know what? I think that might work pretty good. I never put it in this way by gluing it and then attaching it and turning it inside out, well, outside in. But I'll see how this works. It's not working like I thought it would. I didn't get it right, because see how this is up higher than this one, so I need to pull it back out. I need to pull it back out and do it the way I would normally do it. Okay. This is the part that you have to kind of do it over and over again until you get this insert put in to where it's not unbalanced. Okay. think we got it there. So I'm going to glue the inside. Even. Now this is the part that will go here. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to put a snap in there. I think on this one here I want to put a snap. Yes, that's what I forgot, to put a snap. We'll put a snap in here. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is put a snap on this cap here. Now this pattern really does not call for a snap, but I'm going to go ahead and put one in just to show you how it's done. This cap here was done without the snap, but I think I'm going to go ahead and put one in just to show you how it's done. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to just take the bib and I'm going to fold the bib in half so I can get a center point, which is here. So I think I'll put the snap right in the center of the bib, and this part here will be the one that will go like this. So, and I think what I would do here, fold this in. Like I say, it does not call for a snap, but I think I'm going to put one in. Okay. I was thinking about, should I wait and put this part of the snap in after I do the lining, but I have to do it before I put the lining in. So I'm going to go ahead, punch the hole for the snap. And I'll punch this hole. I'm going to put the snap in. Now each snap have two parts, but I'm going to switch up the parts, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now this part of the snap here is what I call the head, and this part is what I call the cap, which are these two parts here. This is the cap, and this is the head. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this part here from the cap with the same part that will go with the head. And the reason why is that when I put the both snaps on, see how this one here have this round bevel type of shape? So if I put this underneath here, well, this will have a different effect because it won't be flat. So this one is not flat, so I'm going to switch it out with one that is flat, and I'll show you the difference with the setter when I get ready to do that. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to take this piece here, which normally goes with this one here, which is the head. But we're going to replace this piece with the one that have the flat backing on it. So what we'll do, we'll put this in here, put this piece on top, tighten that up just a little more. Okay, and now for this piece here, we were going to use the same piece that we would normally use to go with the head. So we'll take this, put it in from the back side, close this. Oh, you know what? I need to change out the upper part. I need this one here that I would normally use with this one and have the pin on the bottom. So I'll take this, close this, now when I put the cap together, this will close like that. That'll keep that closed to where it doesn't come all the way up. Okay? So now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and cut out the lining, sew the lining together. And when we do that, we just use the same pattern for the lining that we use for the cap itself. Oh, you know what? I forgot one other thing. I need to go ahead and finish putting this piece inside. Gluing it, and then sewing this so we're going to go ahead and glue this right now and let it set, and while this is setting, I'll go ahead and cut out the lining, and we can put the lining in, and we can sew this together and then sew the lining in at the same time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and glue this in. I'll just take this, put it inside. Then I'm going to I'm using the contact cement glue. Just going to glue halfway inside. top part and the bottom part. I'm just going to make sure that I have them lined up. Now this is ready to be sewn, but what I'm going to do now is go ahead and cut out a lining, so when we start sewing we can do all of that together. Okay, my lining that I'm using, it is a cotton lining. And you can use whatever you choose to use. But I'm just going to use a cotton lining, and let's see here, get this out of there. I can get this out of there. I'm going to cut this. This is enough for me to do 2 lining. So just easier for me to go ahead and just cut this off. Take this, just like here. So I'm going to trace this out just like I would do, just like I did the leather. Now, if you're making this out of fabric, I'm not a fabric person, but I was informed that if you're making this cap out of fabric, this line here indicate that you need to turn your pattern to where it's going in this direction, to where it's going like in a slant. But because I'm just making the lining, I'm not going to even worry about that. I'm just going to turn it just like it is. But if you're making the cap out of fabric, you may want to be aware of that. And I know there are some of you out there that work with fabric, know a lot more than this about this than I do. When I was told that you need to turn the pattern, I still didn't really understand why. I just know that was the instruction that I was given. So what I'll do, I'll make my line here for the center, make my line here for the center. So once I cut it out and put it together, I'll match up these two for the center. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out my line. cut out, we'll go ahead and pin it together. So it's the same process that I would have done if I was gluing it together. So I'm just going to pin this. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and sew my pleats together, and I'm sewing at 1/4 inch seam. Which is the same seam that I sewn the cap at. Okay, now that we have this sewn, this is our lining, which looks just like the cap. So we could, like I say, you could actually make this out of fabric, make the cap out of fabric. So now what we're going to do is drop the lining inside the cap. Okay, now that we have the lining sewn together, which is exactly like the cap itself. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the lining in, sew around the bottom of the cap. Then we're going to sew the bib around here to finish it off, and then we would attach the bib to the cap. So the way I do, where I put my lining in, some people may just drop it in this way and attach it. But what I'm going to do, I am going to take my lining. It needs to go this, and I'll turn the cap inside out. Turn the bib inside out, and then what I will do, I will just glue around. This is the contact cement glue. And like I say, other people may do theirs different, but I'm just showing you the way I put mine in. Just put some glue around it. And if you was making this cap out of fabric, you would just use pins. And those of you that works with fabric a lot may not even have to attach it with pins or glue or anything like that. I need for my lining to stay in place, for me to sew it. Glue this back. You have come loose. So what I will do, take my lining, I will do the back part first so I can line up my pleats, and that'll help me line everything else up. I'm going to get some clamps to help me out because the glue is not really sticking, not allowing the fabric to stick. So I'm going to get some clamps to help me out. Okay, what I did is we got a couple of clamps to kind of help me out here to hold this together until I sew it, because the glue is really not holding that fabric. So I'm just going to use a couple of clamps to hold it in place until I can sew it. So now what we'll do, we'll go and sew the lining to the cap and sew around the bib to finish the bib off. Okay, what we're going to do now is go ahead and sew the cap to the lining. My seam is a 1/4 inch. It's a 1/4 inch wide. So I'm going to sew this. I think I'm going to turn it this way so I can see what I'm doing much easier. Do my back stitch. So this is sewing my lining to the cap. Then I just turn it back in, and that is the cap with the lining sewn in. Very simple to do. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to sew around this edge here, just to finish this off before we attach the bib to the cap. Now I'm just going to go back over on this side because I forgot to do a back stitch. So I'm just going to go back so I can do a back stitch. Now what I will do is I will glue the bib to the cap and then sew the bib to the cap. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to attach the bib to the cap and then sew it. Before I do that, see how the lining is off here where there's some of it is overlapping? I'm just going to trim that back. Just it wasn't by much, but I just want to trim that off. So what I will do, I would take the cap, I will fold it so I can get my center, and I would fold the bib to get the center of the bib, and I'll just use a little chalk here to put me a mark, and then I will glue around the bib, and I will glue around the cap. But first what I want to do is put another mark it's right here. So this is where I need to stop my gluing. On the cap. I'm not putting much glue around here, just enough that would help me hold it in place until I sew it. I'm going to let that dry a little bit so that way it's not still wet when I put them together and keep it from sliding. So we'll let this dry for a minute. Okay, now that we've let it dry, we'll go ahead and line up my mark on the side, and I'm going to use clamps to help me keep it in place. So that's what it's going to look like. I'm going to let it dry for a minute before I sew it. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to sew the bib to the cap. So what I have to do, I want to make sure that the back side of the cap is not anywhere close to the front, because I can sew this to the front side if I'm not careful. So what I will do, make sure I have this lined up, make sure I have this part here lined up when I start stitching. And this is one of the main reasons why you need a walking foot machine, because you need something that's going to be able to put pressure on your project when you're sewing something that's thick. And I'll come back and do a back stitch on that, but I just want to get it started. My seam line is 1/4 inch. And notice how I'm keeping the back part of the cap away from the front to make sure I do not stitch the back side to the front side. This part can get a little tricky, so I have to fold it. So what I'll do, I'll sew to a certain point, do a back stitch to keep that in place. And then I have to go back in and reset this part here. See how this is coming loose? So I have to go back, reset that. And position this so I can sew it. I can go back to where I stopped. Do a back stitch. Now what I'll do, I'll go back to where I started on this side because I did not do a back stitch. Now I will do my back stitch. This is my cap. Now the one thing that I need to do, I need to go back and put my elastic in, and that would allow the cap to fit better. So what I do, this is a 1-inch elastic. So I'll start on this side. You know what, I need to change my thread to a black thread. Let me change my thread. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to sew my elastic in. It's black, 1 inch. So what I normally do is that I normally start from, if I'm looking at the cap from the back side, I normally start from the left side and work my way around to my right side. So what I would do is that I would find the center of the back of the cap, which is this pleat here. So I would take my elastic and I'm sewing maybe like a 1/4 of an inch, so it's almost right on the top of this stitch here that I did. And just so you know, it gets kind of tricky when we get around here, so sometimes we have to stop and start back again because it gets kind of tricky. Maybe using some other type of machine, but with a flatbed, it can get kind of tricky. So what I'll do, do a couple of back stitches. So I'm really using the stitch that I did to go around the bottom of the the bottom of the cap. I'm so used to doing bags. The bottom of the cap to sew the lining in. I'm using that as my guideline. Now this is the part where it can get kind of tricky because I have to take where the bib is and lay it flat. So let me sew up to this point. So I have to lay this bib flat. like I say, this part here, it's kind of tricky, but you can do it. Now we'll flatten it back out. Going back down to around the bottom of the side. Clip this off. Now I'll just clip this off. And what I'll do, I'll come back and whip stitch this. Then this turns under. And basically what I would do, I would just take clamps to retrain the leather to turn under. But this is the cap. And like I say, what I need to do now is just whip stitch this here together, and this cap will be finished. Okay, this is the finished cap, which is from this Vogue pattern, and I hope that this gave you some insight on how to make this cap. And if you know anyone that that likes working with leather, that want to learn to work with leather, please pass this on to them. And if you have not subscribed, please do. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel. And I have more videos on the way. And I think the next one I'm going to do is showing people how to master the industrial sewing machine with working with leather. I think I will do that one next, but I have many more videos to do and to share with you. So again, thank you for watching.